Shopify is a platform that can be used for so many different things. I think most commonly it's used for dropshipping. Whether it's dropshipping print-on-demand products or just dropshipping physical products using an app like Oberlo or something like that, it's all pretty much the same. In today's video, I wanted to give you my honest opinion on Shopify, and then you can decide whether or not it's a platform worth pursuing or if you want to go for an alternative, which I'll also discuss in today's video. Now, I've had quite a few different Shopify stores in the past. I've had a whole bunch of print-on-demand Shopify stores, and I've had a whole bunch of dropshipping Shopify stores. Not dropshipping print-on-demand products, but dropshipping, physical products. Now, some of them have failed miserably, and some have been really successful. So I want to talk to you based on my experience with Shopify. The first issue is the price. Now, this may not be an issue for a lot of people, but I think for the huge majority of people just starting out and trying to find a platform, the price of Shopify can be quite a roadblock. Plans start at $29 and then they go to $79 or even further than that. I think it's $299. And that's just for the membership. On top of that, you've got things like if you want to buy apps or if you want custom themes, things like that, and it can add up very, very quickly. Now, as well as that fee of, let's say, $29 if you start on the most basic plan, you also have the credit card fees that you get whenever you sell a product. Now, if you're selling a certain amount, it makes more sense to go for the $79 plan because your credit card fee and the transaction fee will be just a bit less. But starting out, it's such a minimal fee, so I'm not so bothered by it. I don't think it's a negative. It is what it is. I don't think it's a big deal. What's really, really awesome is with this price, you also get hosting. So like a lot of other platforms, you'll need to pay for external hosting through Bluehost or HostGator or any website that is able to host your site, right? But with Shopify, within the plan, you get the hosting free. And as well as that, the hosting is very fast. So you can whip around a Shopify site quite quickly, which is very, very good. And if you want a domain name, so if you want a custom domain name rather than, .shopify store, whatever, then you can just buy that on GoDaddy or probably many other websites. And then I put them into my Shopify stores. Now, the most expensive element of this whole Shopify experience is probably the apps. If you want to go for an app, they can cost $7, $8, $9. They can cost $30 a month. And that's added on top of your membership. So for example, if you have 5 apps, and these apps could be a review app, a cart abandonment app, an email app, anything. There's so many different apps. They have a huge app store that can cost you hundreds and hundreds of dollars every single month. So if you have 5 apps costing you $30, that means your whole membership, including the $29 membership fee, is going to cost you $180 a month. Now, at first, I did think apps were frustrating. It was annoying just because of this added cost. And, when I signed up for a membership, I didn't want to have to spend all this extra money. But after looking at the App Store and just seeing the vast library of apps that you have there, it's actually really, really cool. And a lot of things cost. And it makes a lot of sense when you add things to a WordPress website or, you add things to your website, plugins and these kind of things. Usually they cost, and it's just really nice to be able to see it all within this one app store and then just add it to your Shopify store. Even though it does cost a bit extra, for some people where the cost isn't such a big deal, it's amazing. So if you fall under the category of already having some startup capital and having an idea and a plan and just a direction of where you want to go, where you want to take your business, then I would actually say Shopify is probably a good option for you. And I don't think the cost is such a big deal. But if you're an individual who is just starting out, who is kind of testing the waters, maybe not even testing the waters, maybe you have a solid plan, but you're starting out, you don't have the biggest capital to get started, then I don't think Shopify is for you. And I'm going to explain a bit further. The next category is how time-consuming Shopify is in terms of building the site. You would think when you sign up for Shopify, it's a very simple drag and drop system. Everything is easy. Everything is just, super fast. You can just do it all. But actually, it's not. Now, just because on the offhand, you don't have to worry about code and all that kind of stuff, you may think this is a really easy platform. And technically, you could create a website in as little as a few hours. However, a lot of YouTubers, a lot of people talk about, it only takes 2-3 hours to create a Shopify store. But in actual fact, it doesn't, because you've got to take all the photos, you've got to do all the copywriting, you've got to, add the right apps, you've got to do all of these things, add the products, the catalogs, the pricing, the shipping, all of these things. So in reality, it could take you a few days, maybe even longer than a week, to create a fully, ready to go Shopify store. And if you want to do simple things like dropping in an image or a map for the About Me page, then yes, all of that kind of stuff is built in and it just looks really smooth. But as soon as you want to add something a bit more complicated, for example, my wife had this issue where she needed to add a certain amount of products and it wasn't letting her do it. And it was saying, oh, you need to now add code. That's when it can get really confusing. Now, Shopify used the coding language Liquid, which is really powerful, it's really good. But at the end of the day, that's not what you're buying Shopify for, right? You're buying Shopify if you don't want to code, if you want something simple and easy to use, and you just need a go-to solution. And unfortunately for my wife, she needed that go-to solution, but because they couldn't do this basic fundamental thing of having all these multiple different products, right? It was no good. And because she can't code, right, yet, but because she can't code, the platform was mute. It was irrelevant, right? We couldn't use it. Likewise, if you do want certain things changed and it's out of your scope with coding or anything, you can contact support and eventually they will be able to hopefully help you out. Sometimes they just say you need to code that, you need to go and code that yourself. But other times they will be able to actually help you on their end, which is very useful. Now, you are also slightly limited by what the store can look like, which is why you get a lot of Shopify stores looking very similar. A great way to counter this is to use one of the custom themes. Now, custom themes can cost quite a bit of money, but you also have a whole bunch of free custom themes. And the benefit behind this is just being able to make a slightly unique site. Otherwise, all the sites tend to look the same. A really cool thing is you can actually, in your trial period of Shopify, also trial out a theme. Even though it costs, you can trial that theme out, make sure it looks good for your product, your branding, everything. And if it looks good, then great. You can then buy that theme, pay for your Shopify membership, and you're good to go. So I would usually say, start with a free theme and go from there. But if you've got capital, you're able to, start, like you have the means to be able to start something unique, then create a really cool Shopify store with a unique theme, and it would be amazing. In terms of customer service, I actually found it quite decent, right? Like, I had a problem, I needed it fixed. The only annoying thing is it took me quite a while to explain it for them to actually understand. I kept having to go through it over and over again, as if it was a very, very basic understanding on the other side. But eventually, when she finally got it, she was able to fix it, and it wasn't too much of an issue. So that is pretty good in a way. Having good customer service is so important. And even though it took them a bit longer to understand the issue and be able and solve it, they did eventually come through and solve the problem. Now, let's talk about one of the biggest things when it comes to Shopify, and that is traffic and marketing. And a lot of the time you'll find with people trying to convince you or tell you about Shopify, they ignore this element of the entire business. And the reason for that is because it's complicated, it's a difficult subject, and it's really hard to explain. Now, quite frankly, I'm not so bothered if you sign up for Shopify. If you want to sign up for it because you like it, then go for it. It could be really good for you. But first, I just want to make you aware of this marketing, of this traffic problem. And it's not really a problem, okay? It's actually very normal. When creating a new website, regardless of if it's Shopify, Squarespace, WooCommerce, Zyro, it doesn't matter, you will need to drive your own traffic. Now, if you want a website that has organic traffic that you don't need to pay for, you can look at sites like eBay, Etsy, Amazon. Those kind of platforms, have their own audiences, and you can get organic free sales just based on their audiences and ranking well. But with Shopify, you are creating a brand new site on the internet, and in order to get sales, you need to drive traffic. And I personally think that as well as a good product and a good site, it goes hand in hand with being able to market. And if you can't market, you can't drive traffic, then your site won't do very well. You could literally have the sexiest looking website, like incredible looking website, like as good as Apple. But if you're not getting any traffic to that site, it doesn't matter because no one's gonna see it and no one's gonna buy your product. So as well as creating a Shopify store, I would recommend learning about marketing, learning about driving traffic, learning about ads, free traffic, paid traffic, all these different elements, because it's just so unbelievably important. And in terms of traffic and tracking traffic, tracking where it's coming from, Shopify is pretty good at that. Now, with the $79 option, you have better tracking information, but you do get some basic tracking, and even better than basic tracking with the $29 membership. So if you're driving traffic from Facebook or Google or whatever, you can track it quite well and see what's making money, what's not making money, where you should put your attention, and it's actually pretty good. Now, I'd love to talk more about driving traffic, but that's not really what this video is about. So if you would like to see methods and different tactics and stuff about driving free traffic, paid traffic to a Shopify store, a Xyro store, a WooCommerce store, a Squarespace store, whatever it is, let me know in the comments and I'll make some more content on that. Now, in terms of Shopify alternatives, you're pretty spoiled for choice. In recent years, Shopify has become so popular, and a lot of that is due to YouTubers who are very big, very successful, using Shopify, talking about Shopify, and running very successful businesses through Shopify. And Shopify has become sort of like a brand, a fad, like an icon to create your store. And that doesn't mean you have to follow the trend. You can 100% use other platforms, and you have other platforms like WooCommerce, WordPress, Wix, Squarespace, Xyro. You have all these other platforms, and some of them are more complicated, some of them are more expensive, some of them are cheaper, some of them are easier. They all have their different benefits, their different pros and cons. Now, out of that group of website alternatives, I would say Xyro is probably the cheapest. Shopify is really, really good. Squarespace is okay. Wix is very similar to Squarespace. WooCommerce is very, very good, very similar to Xyro and Shopify. And then WordPress, it has the capability of being the best, but it's also very, very complicated. It's much harder to learn. It can have a lot more bugs and it can have a lot more problems. So I wouldn't use WordPress just for that reason. In conclusion, Shopify is a brilliant platform, and it has been since it was created in 2006. It was a genius idea back then, and it still is now. The only difference is you have many other options, so you don't have to go with Shopify if you don't want to. So as I said, if you are an individual with a solid plan, a bit of budget, a solid marketing plan, and you know what you're doing, then fine, go for Shopify, see how it goes. I think it could be quite good. But if you're an individual who's starting out, you want to see what works, what doesn't work, you don't have everything 100% sorted, you don't have the biggest budget, then I would recommend using another platform like Xyro or another one, just because you can dabble around a bit more, it's a lot more affordable, and it doesn't really matter if you go wrong because you have that larger, margin of error because you're spending a lot less money. And then if down the line you want to switch to Shopify, it's not really a problem. In fact, it's quite easy to do. You can just move over your link and then create the store, and then only fully transfer it when it's properly ready, and it's really easy. But again, I don't think you need to, because if you create a full store using any of the alternatives, you'll be perfectly happy with that as well. Let me know what you think of Shopify down in the comments below. If you like it, if you don't like it, if you have any problems with it. And finally, I want to say a massive thank you for watching. If you have liked this video, please smash that thumbs up button. And as well as that, if you haven't already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button, and hopefully I will see you in the next video.